Okay, so just for the recording, welcome again to the session. And it's the session on career growth in 2025. So today you will have three presenters. First will be me, who will be talking about freshers and 0 to 5 years of experience. Then we will have Ramya. She will be talking about 5 years plus experienced ICs and budding managers. And then we will have Menka, and she will be talking about IC versus managers role, what to do, which one to pick, and so that's all. And then in the end, we will be having salary survey. So session one, by me, the road ahead, freshers and ICs. This is me, and I hope all of you can read it. So I'm based in Hyderabad, have some good experience in technical writing, and yeah, right now I'm leading Tech Writers Tribe effort. And as part of efforts, apart from different kind of webinars and all, we do train people also. So there are many people we have already trained uh, for technical writing courses, for other courses. Of course, for other courses, there are trainers, technical writing course. I am involved in that. So the session about freshers, let's get started first. First of all, who actually is a fresher? How do you enter the field? And then the next level, once you have entered as a fresher, what do you do to grow and excel? Technical writing field is one unique field, probably I can say, where probably anybody of any background can join. They can be students of any background. It's not necessary that you should be having an engineering certificate. There are people who have joined from all walks of life. Then we have homemakers, a lot of homemakers. Now there are in homemakers also there are two types. One who has been a homemaker forever, right from marriage, and they have never worked. And then there are homemakers who have worked, then taken a break for family reasons, and then tried to come back to field. So those kind of people, you will find a lot of them in technical writing. Then we have professionals. Now, these professionals can be categorized into primarily two types from our perspective. So if we talk about technical writing in software field, so as you may know, that technical writers exist in all fields. Wherever there is a product, there is a technical writer. The name of role may vary, but the primary work is documenting the product for internal and external customers. So we are primarily focused on software technical writing. So that's why professionals from other fields, I say, so there are two sets. One set is technical writers who are in other fields. For example, any hardware or like aerospace, oil and gas, or any other field. And then there are professionals who may be in IT or who may be in other field, but they're not doing technical writing. So those professionals also are joining. In case you're going to see the salary survey report, there is a section there that before joining technical writing, what were you doing? And you will find very interesting profession names there. Okay, there are people who work in different fields for say 10 years plus. It's not only juniors like 1 year or 2 year. I worked as a developer or QA tester or teacher, and then I moved. There are people who worked for 10 years plus in some other fields, and then they have moved to software technical writing. Okay. One basic question always comes, should I be engineering background from engineering background? Technically, the answer is no. But if we see the industry trend and considering its software field, so people do prefer engineering background so that you don't have to code here, but you have that knowledge and you don't get scared of codes because ultimately you have to understand that. But having said that, that's not a rule. There are, as before also I said, from different walks of life, people have walked into technical writing. Now, whether you are, whatever background you are having, as a fresher, there are some things called basics in technical writing. Those basics cannot be compromised. If you call yourself that, oh, okay, I know technical writing, then there are basics about understanding what all are the rules that a technical writer should have. So primarily it starts with English grammar, but just learning English grammar or just being good in English doesn't make you a technical writer. For that, I keep on giving one very small example, and I will give that again to those who still feel that, oh, I know English, I'm good to be a technical writer. In software industry, primarily we use American English, or even those who are using British English. Just think about this scenario. English is not our mother tongue, but English is the mother tongue of Americans, Britishers, right? Software industry primarily started in US. In a company, there also, where everybody is probably from US, everybody is not qualified to be a technical writer. There are developers, there are product managers, there are many other roles. But even among them, there is a certain qualification required to be a technical writer. So those in India who feel that just knowing good English qualifies you to be a technical writer, just remember that example, that in countries where the native language is English, there also everybody cannot be a technical writer. So grammar, yes, that the foundation. Then there are certain specific rules which we follow in technical writing. And that's what we call as authoring concepts. There are rules related to it. There are a lot of rules actually if you get into depth. So those are the basics. Then how do you write? To write, you need to have a knack of understanding the product. And when I say product, especially in software industry, it's software. So you need to understand not only the front end, but the back end also. So a bit of, even if you're not from a computer science background, but you should develop that ability to love that technical knowledge. And then ultimately, why are we required as technical writer? Because the documents which are read, those are read by audience and the audience can be categorized into technical audience and non-technical audience. The non-technical audience doesn't understand the technical jargons. So that's why technical documentation is written by technical writers and primarily not by developers who actually develop the product. They have the best knowledge of the product, but they cannot present the content in a way which audience can understand. So this is where when we write, we have to understand the audience. And there are different things when we say understanding the audience, it's not so simple. There are different things that we need to understand it. So those are the basics every technical writer should have, whether you are a fresher or whether you are a senior. Tools everybody talks about, but yeah, at least in the beginning, tools are not the most important thing. In 2025, if I say, apart from other things, all you need to get a bit more into is expose yourself to AI. See how it works. You won't be demanded to work on AI right as a fresher, but yeah, all of you, all those who want to join this field, they must be having some knowledge so they can use their hands on AI. Here, this is a chart. I have picked it from LinkedIn, and this is Fabrizio who has shared it on LinkedIn. So I use it just to show that coming to technical writing from different fields, how people come. So here you can see there are different fields, there are technical fields, and there are general fields. So from different walks of life, people do come. And in technical writing, also you have different kind of, so there is product documentation, there is developer documentation, and there are other requirements also. So they come and contribute. So this is the answer to those questions where people ask, I'm from commerce background, I'm from some other background. Can I become a technical writer? Yes, you can become a technical writer. Your background doesn't stop you. The only thing that you need is whatever skills we talked about, you should learn about it. And it's not only about technical writing. Any field you go to, you will have, every field is different because that field has some unique skills. So in the same way, technical writing has some unique skills and you must expose yourself to that. Now, there are sometimes, at times, people, when we talk, they say that, okay, I'm a content writer or I'm some kind of writer itself. So, what is the fuss about technical writing? Why do you all emphasize so much about that? Okay, technical writing is different and all. So, let's see, what do we do differently? Actually, from a fresher's perspective, a technical writer, just by role name, you will say, yeah, a technical writer writes. Yes, of course, the person is supposed to write only, to provide documents, different kind of documents. But the thing about technical writing specifically is before writing, you need to think a lot. So say as a technical writer, if I have a task of writing one document, okay, about anything. Technically just to write, probably I will take half an hour. If it's about steps and all, I know the process. Writing time might be half an hour to 1 hour, and then we will have to review and all sometime. But generally, for all of you understand MS Word page. One MS Word page probably takes around 250 words to 300 words. If you talk in terms of words and also one small article of technical documentation may be over in 100 words or 150 words maximum. But to write that and to complete that, it's not just half an hour and 1 hour. The general time taken by a technical writer for a one-page document is varying from 4 hours to 8 hours. The question is, where does those extra 3 hours and 7 hours are spent? This is where the thinking part comes. Thinking part involves a lot of things. First, you understand the requirement, then you talk to the SMEs, you do your own research, you do test also, if possible for you, that okay, whether it how is it behaving, how is the product behaving, or whatever the task is. So when you do all those things and your understanding is completely clear, then only you get into writing and you start writing the document. Again, when you will write, there are authoring rules to follow. Every document will have a particular structure. There are style guides, those you will have to follow. But before writing, you will have to think. And then you write. And writing, when we say writing also involves you write, but there will be reviewers. Reviewers can be from your team or they can be from other teams also. There is technical review, there is peer review or editorial review. And once the review cycle is complete, then only your document is complete. That's how generally the basic life cycle here works in technical writing. So before writing anything, first of all, you need to have that technical writing skills where you know what should be the structure of the document, how to write steps. There is a certain way of writing it. and but before that, you will have to think also. So what we can do here is just for 2-3 minutes. Those of you who might like to join, we will talk here only. Okay. So if I have to say how to shop a mobile at Amazon, and you have to tell that to a first-time user. Remember, first-time user of Amazon. So you have any thoughts? What will you do? How will you write up? How will you write this topic? All of you can contribute. Or else if you want to just type in, you can type in that also. And this is not a test. I see answer in chat. Okay, so that's thank you, Prasun. And so when we talk about the structure of the document, what could be the structure? What comes first in the document? I'm sure all of you know. So anybody can come forward. Small introduction. Okay. Overview section, introduction. Okay. That's nice, Preeti. Prerequisites, yes. Title, about the document. Okay. Purpose of the document. Wonderful. Great. So I think we have a lot of pointers. Check the drop down and click the mobile. Yeah. Validity note, applicability, and the steps. So, yep. Okay, thank you so much. So now if we just summarize what we got there. So title. So there is a structure. All of this people have quickly shared. So there is a structure. The structure is like there is a title, then we have a description. That description will tell you about the topic, about the product. And then before starting the steps, so I think somebody mentioned what are the prerequisites, and then we write the steps. And steps are also written in a very particular way. There is a rule every organization follows. So that's how we say. So, and again, here we are seeing what when we say, when we explain the document is about the first time user. If it was not about the first time user, probably the information that we are sharing that may vary. So this is where we need to understand the audience, we need to understand the structure, and generally technical writing is very strict about these rules. So this is where I mentioned that, okay, those rules and all that you will need to know as a fresher or even as a senior when you are going for interview, and there is always a written test, there is always some interview where your technical knowledge will be judged. So make sure you have those basics clear. Okay. So that's all about the fresher part. Before I come to the second part of experienced folks up to 5 years of experience, what they should be doing. Anybody has any thoughts to share or any questions? Do we have any fresher here? Probably not. Okay, so the session is by me, but still, if any of you want to share any thoughts about freshers' perspective, feel free to share. Okay, looks like we don't have. So then, wonderful. Let's move on. Moving on, once you are a technical writer, as a fresher, you have joined from any background. Initially, you get trained, or on the job, you get the work environment, which is either called official training or unofficial. It is you are getting trained on the job. From there onward, what can you do? So the basics are clear. Basics you are already carrying. You already know the documentation rules. Now, in this, how do you grow? So first of all, I would like to add a disclaimer here. Technical writing is not one field where you can decide that, okay, this is skill number one, this is skill number two, is skill number three, is skill number four. There is no ladder to it. Basics, it's important for all. But beyond that, There are different things. You hear about data, you hear about single sourcing, you hear about working in agile, then you hear about docs as code, then there is developer documentation, and now we have AI. There could be many more. So there is no ladder to it that, okay, first you should learn data, then you should learn how to work in agile, then you should learn docs as code. Although it's numbered based on the technicality associated with it. For example, docs as code is understood to be a technical aspect. It's not just related to authoring where you write documents. You need to understand the repository part. You need to understand the website component also. Then when we say developer documentation, you need to understand the codes. You need to understand at a higher level, especially you need to understand the language. You don't need to write the code, but you still to decipher what does it mean, you need to understand it. So, but other things, if you see, first level technical writer, where all of you, what do you need? The basic skills and the art of using plain technical writing English, not a complicated one filled with jargons and all. Then you should understand the basic authoring processes and everything. Those rules, the basics that we talked about. Beyond that, that's gone into writing. Now, next level could be learn data. It's one of the popular terms, which is of which you will often see in JDs. Okay, learn data, and then there are single sourcing tools. Then every technical writer, at least in software industry, whether you are a fresher or a senior, generally you have to work in a project, and that project model is called as agile. Here, agile writer means you need to follow a proactive approach. You can't just sit back and wait for orders and wait for others to assign you tasks. So this is where now, because many technical writers often don't take this seriously, now you will see in some JDs, you will see this pointer also, ability to work in agile. And then you have other skills. So all these you can learn one by one, or depending upon your interest. If your interest lies into more technical, I would suggest after one and maybe two, directly move into developer documentation, docs as code, Markdown, ASCII-Doc, and others. Git, all those are getting very popular now, so you can get in that also. So this learning all this just enhances your chances of getting good job. So these are the things generally. This has nothing to do with 2025. Okay, these are the general things that one can do. So even when we have come in 2025, it doesn't mean everything has changed. Many of the things which were considered important before, they are still important. So these are the things like, apart from all these writing skills, you need to be a good communicator. That's why technical writing profession is at times also called as technical communication. Okay. And you are also called as technical communicator, and it's not only about writing. Okay. Then your research skills, your ability to adapt faster, whether it's to tools, processes, or technologies. Agile writer I already talked about. Your problem solving skills. So the more senior you become, all these skills should come in picture. The better someone is in all these things, the more valued that person is. In 2025, what's new? I would say, first of all, must focus on those things which are already existing. Those are not, getting removed from the scene. AI, yes, we talk about it, and then there are a lot of organizations who are using or which are using it already. So what all you can do in AI? You can try to get familiar with AI tools. It's used for content generation, which helps in drafting, editing, and understanding content. So try your hands on that. You can also use automation tools. Then you can learn how to customize AI for documentation. Many organizations are already doing this. You can also understand how AI can personalize documentation as per context, as per the requirement of your document. Then for FAQs and all, you can structure content to align with AI-powered search engines. So all these will also need your ability to train that. And many organizations, as they are going into it, they are training their writers also in this. So yes, with AI, we can do a lot. Just figure it out what all you would like to do. And it's a long curve, but at least be aware about it. That will help you grow, whether you are switching jobs or whether you are staying in the same company. That will help you grow faster. So I think that's all from my end. And any questions or any thoughts? Otherwise, I'm done.
I think it was a great session, Puneet. A lot of insights, especially on various fields within technical writing. I think you shared a lot of light into it. Good session overall for
Thank
freshers.
you. Thank you, Ramya. Okay, so I think that's all then. And let's move on to the next session. So the next session we have with Ramya. And here we have Ramya, so she is the director in technical documentation. She is based in Bangalore, working with digital.ai. She has her expertise in bridging technical complexities for diverse domains, including finance, healthcare, IT, and DevSecOps. She is skilled in strategy planning, team building, and fostering innovation in content development. She is passionate about customer advocacy and Docs as Code framework. And here comes the fun part. Carnatic music vocalist and fitness enthusiast. Wonderful. Someday, probably, we will have it. The Carnatic music.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ramya. So over to
Thank
you.
you.
Want me to keep sharing, Ramya, or you want to share?
Yes. No, you can share. I'll let you know. Thank you, Puneet. I think
Sure.
that was a short introduction. And well, to start off, just to add to what Puneet started with freshers, I started off as a junior telecom officer at BSNL, moved into development, and then moved into technical writing. So probably one day I can tell how all that transition happened and how I'm still, having fun around in this domain, right? So today in the agenda, I'm trying to keep it, to keeping minimalism into account. So keep 3 points across all my presentation or slide decks, I would say. So the agenda, what I'm trying to do today is for mid-level ICs and budding managers or already existing managers. What I would do is I've segregated these agenda items, and I would be providing some insights, and feel free to share as well in terms of what or each section, how an IC or and then a manager would need to take action based on what is presented. So agenda here today is understanding current trends. Like I said, how to thrive and succeed. There are a lot of things that people can do, and I know everyone comes with their own experience, but I just picked these three so that we can just start focusing as a group on how it might help, because these three things have really helped me personally. And it'll be easier for me to talk. So understanding current trends, I've segregated that into technology and domain. We'll delve into that. Equipping oneself and how it is important. Just understanding trends, going through courses, attending some LinkedIn classes is not going to help. How are we going to adapt? How are we going to adopt all of that in action is really important. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then a key important thing, I think, when back in the day it used to be very different, and I always had an assumption saying that okay, my work will speak for it all, but that's a wrong assumption. So you have to market your work. You have to also ensure that you create a win-win situation between you and your manager or mentor, whoever that is. And how it is important for you to uh, uh, embrace the fact that yes, I am now wanting a promotion, and how I can influence that. So that is very important. So I'll talk about that as well. Moving on. So understanding the current trends. So I've segregated this again into my famous threes. One is the generic technology trends, and then domain specific technological advancements, and the technical writing trends. What are some of the things? I think, like Puneet also mentioned in his previous session, it's very important for us to keep ourselves up to date in terms of what's happening in and around us. right? So especially on the technology trends. Um, uh, uh, I just picked three here. Just, go on to any of your Gen AI tool, ChatGPT for that matter, and try adding things. And I'm sure there will be a change even next day, because that is the kind of, uh, you know, uh, trends that are changing at a fast pace. We used to have these cliched question in interviews, which will talk about what do you or how do you see yourself 5 years down the lane. That is really a cliche now, because it does not apply, because the kind of technology trends that are changing on a day-to-day basis, it's important for us to understand and keep pace with that fast-paced environment. So Gen AI is one. I think Gen AI is both. I know I we spoke about this in one of the TWT panel discussions, and how it is coming to our jobs, right? It's not just technical writers, and I'm not scaring anyone here, but it is coming for everyone's job, right? Today, whether it is Copilot or any other Gen AI tool that we can think of, it is able to actually execute a lot of things that a person or a human can do, right? So how we embrace that technology is important, instead of taking a back seat and figuring out, oh, looks like my role or a job is going to be obsolete, right? So embracing technology is very important. So Gen AI is really, really important and crucial. I think it is not just prompt engineering, but understanding the technicalities of Gen AI and how we can adapt that into whatever domain we are in is very important. Um, that is one. And then I just picked another one, which is, think about quantum computing when it comes to encryption or cryptography, how technology trends have changed. So I picked these based on an assumption that most of us are in product organizations, which and software product organizations, which embrace all of these things, right? And then there are self-driven cars too, and that's something that has happened quite a while ago. In fact, it's just not, we don't see it every now and then, at least in India, but it is happening everywhere else, right? So these are certain things. I just picked three different things that are there, and one thing that keeps me going is being inquisitive and having that curiosity to understand what's happening, and that keeps us going. It might be boring, it might be interesting, but it's important for us to have that habit of going into what is happening in the generic trends as well. So that way you will know whether the organization that you're in is already embracing that technology trend or not. So that can be a scary part. If my organization is not embracing a current or a latest technology trend, then we are probably in a shell, and I don't know how the longevity of my role, right? So that's another thing to think about, why it is important. Moving on to domain specific. Here, I just took based on some of the common domains, and one of the hotcakes, I would say, is the DevOps domain, which I'm also part of right now, and there is a fintech domain. So each of these domain, there are technological advancements, which again, how they're adopting Gen AI. It could be in the AI ops section for DevOps. Then there could be the security aspect integration into DevOps. So DevOps is, let's say, grandfather of agile, right? Wherein it happens, there is this continuous CI/CD, continuous integration and deployment, wherein security aspect of it is also there. And then there is adopting serverless architecture. Gone are those days where organizations are investing heavily on infrastructure, right? It is all there on the cloud right now, and embracing that kind of an architecture is very important. That when we cater to our own customers, right? So that these are some of the advancements that are happening in DevOps. Then coming to fintech, I know a lot of us work on the fintech domains, like it could be Oracle Finances or any other JP Morgan Chase, for example. So fintech software also, there are a lot of things that are changing in terms of Gen AI, wherein some of the setup that used to be probably keyed in by a data entry specialist is now taken over by Gen AI. Right. So that's the kind of integration that fintech is doing. Then there is, of course, RegTech solutions, there is embedded finance. All of these are different technological advancements that are happening in fintech. So this is just to give you a quick insight into what is happening at different domains. And I just picked DevOps and fintech. Then coming to technical writing trends, right? I know we spoke about data, we spoke about Docker code, but I'll tell you this, this is the harsh reality. These are there in with us for almost more than a decade, right? Data came into existence in 2005 when IBM thought about, okay, I am having some problems with my Redbooks. I'm going to make some changes. I want to introduce structured authoring, right? So data came into existence back in 2005. We spoke about Docker code. Docker code again, I think it was formulated by one of the co-founders of GitHub, who was actually blogging and thought about how it is easier for me to do it this way. So he made use of GitHub as a CMS, right? So Docker code again, is there in place in the market since 2015 or 2013 also, right? So we are already lagging behind to an extent somewhere in India, but this is something that's happening elsewhere too, right? So it's already there, but we have to start thinking much far ahead when it comes to technical writing trends. Adopting Gen AI. I'm sure in the coming years, this is my vision of how search will become obsolete, right? We will not have these traditional search kind of a tool, or it could be Algolia or Elasticsearch. They might go out of business if they are not adopting Gen AI, right? So traditional search, nobody searches. Even for you, if you have to quickly think about trying to understand, I don't think you'll open a user manual. I don't do that. I would never open a user manual to understand, go through, navigate, or search and then use that, right? I would hit Google or any other search engine and get some answers. So adopting Gen AI is what is important for us in content creation. So it could be content creation and also the way we present, or content accessibility for that matter. So content creation, I know a lot of us embrace ChatGPT to actually create content that is already there for you. Um, of course, it comes with a lot of these security aspects and IP, and wherein you will have to ensure that the content that you're generating from Gen AI and utilizing that in your system is not going out again, because it's all there in the out, right? So that security aspect of it is still important. So it can impact search, it can impact how you create content, it can also impact how you present content, right? So adopting Gen AI as quickly as possible is very important. So I know, I don't know, a lot of us, I know, at least I'm old. I've seen the little chatbot that comes along with Word, which would give you examples. So that's the earlier adoption of Gen AI, right? Right, AI, for example. So we have to start thinking about how we can utilize or add value to the content that we publish or present to our customers through Gen AI. It need not be a traditional search. You can include, AI based or bot based search, which I know a lot of us are already doing, and you can find that in some of the docs websites too. And collaborative authoring, that is what is important. Now, if you look at some of the trends in the startup culture, right? I don't think they are hiring writers at all. And I know this can come as a surprise, but analogous to or contrary to what Punit mentioned in terms of how a developer need not know, right? But that's now the expectation. When they are hiring developers, they are they're also looking for how well they are in terms of communication, because the developers themselves write content, and for which that is why Docker code came into existence for that matter. They don't have to learn a new sophisticated writing tool, a different CMS. No, they're going to utilize their own tools that they use day in and out for actually creating and publishing content. So collaborative authoring is very important. I know for a fact that I think I don't know how many of you follow Content Wrangler that Scott Abbott runs. So one of these sessions where Salesforce, one section of Salesforce actually, writers are now consultants. All they do is they work with the engineering counterparts to ensure the format and everything else is ready, and then they publish it. The rest of the content creation actually is happening by the developers or any other folks from the engineering background, right? So that is also happening. So that kind of collaboration, we should start looking at, as technical communicators, we should start looking at areas where we can start collaborating with our cross-functional teams to see if that authoring part of it can be done, not just through the writing team, but involving the others also. right? And a dynamic documentation delivery. This also has been there for quite some time. This is all about, I know we are all used to creating structured content, building the TOC, presenting it all, and nobody honestly reads 300 or 400 pages of information for doing their task. They want quick information, right? My daughter actually reads through her YouTube lessons in 2x speed. It is, I am in that generation where I don't follow the 2x speed, but that's the kind of fast or mobility that is there in place right now. So we have to cater to that kind of audience, and everybody, and it's important for us to embrace that kind of documentation delivery. So dynamic documentation delivery is all about how we create content in chunks. Again, principles of data where content reuse can be embraced, and a docs as code as well, wherein we enable our own customers to stitch their own document and then use it for their consumption. So that is the kind, that's where we are going towards. So it's a combination of minimalism, combination of structured authoring principles, content reuse, and minimal tool or invasive methods of content delivery. So that in general, I wanted to touch base upon understanding current trends. So this, why this is important, I think we'll see in the next slide. So all this understanding is very important for, equipping oneself, right? So it is very important. So this is something that I've always held on very dearly from one of my managers in one of the previous organizations that I was in. If you are a critical resource for the organization, no matter what, I think very in a very rare case, you'll be let go. So that being that critical resource for the organization is very, very important. And for that to happen, the previous slide that we saw, all of that also plays a very pivotal role, right? And to start off with, I know I always, whenever I get a chance, I try to emphasize. I can't emphasize more. Can't, it's like it's very, very important for us to have that in-depth product knowledge, understanding the bigger picture. I know I've interviewed candidates who said, no, I did not have any permission to use the product. You cannot write if you're not using the product. You have to dirty your hands. You have to make, I know it sounds all, sometimes it might sound very Greek and Latin, but no, it is easier when we are doing that, taking that step to actually do it. It's not going the extra mile. I would say it is an important requirement for any technical writer, whether you're a fresher or you're a director or a senior director. It is very important to be very hands-on. So in-depth product knowledge is one of the keys which will contribute to being that critical resource in your organization. And then the other point that I want to stress upon is how you can collaborate, communicate, and portray stronger customer advocacy. Again, going back to Punit's point about how a developer might, he's just focused on, he or she is just focused on creating or implementing the code for a module that they are assigned to, right? But as a writer, I think we have the liberty to understand what the customer actually wants. And for us to do that, I think we have to embrace the customer advocacy hat, right? So for which I think our best friends would be anybody that is customer facing, including the customers themselves, right? It could be support, it could be customer success. Then there are, of course, product managers. Then there are product marketing folks, solutions engineers, field engineers. These are the guys who are our friends. So we have to collaborate more with them, because for all you know, they might have something that probably we would be able to give an answer to. For example, working with a CSM, we would get to know what some of the common pain points are for the customer. And let's say if we provide that upfront as part of troubleshooting information in our docs, then the number of support tickets that might come our way might be reduced. So that collaboration is very important for the overall organization. And when that is seen as somebody, that is seen as, as a quality in a writer who portrays that stronger customer advocacies and is not really scared of collaborating with these people, then you become a critical resource. That person is treated as a critical resource. Another important point is to, of course, upskill. I know we don't have to code, all that is there, but unfortunately, I want to stress this again, that's not the scenario now. And I'm not scaring anybody. It is very important. Now there are, like we spoke about serverless architecture, there are codeless implementation that are happening. So it's not very, very cumbersome like how it used to be earlier, but implementing code not just understanding code, but if you're able to understand code, then you can write it too. Smaller scripts, it could be smaller things. And now with Gen AI, it's easier for you to understand and implement as well. If I have to give an example, so we recently had to do a content migration, and there was a lot of we tried to understand what this whole thing could be, and what it means in terms of effort, right? So instead of trying to do a copy paste of this whole thing into another format, what we did is we created a script, and that script, the base script, was given to us by ChatGPT. All we had to do is make that change to that script and then adopt it, and it happened. It would have taken weeks otherwise, or months together, to complete that migration, but that happened in let's say just a day. Not even a day, I'm including even the times where we had to fix some of the things manually. So that is the kind of impact technology has in terms of automation. So let's not get scared of technology, and it is very important for us to upskill in terms of how start thinking about how automation is important, how it can leverage our own work, right? So that you can focus on more important things. So, and then when you do that, when you're upskilled, I think you can also contribute to your cross-functional team. So yes, gone are those days where we say we used to take pride saying that, oh, we provided error messages to the UX team, we review their error messages and UI labels. Yes, that's a given, right? Because we as technical communicators have the strongest. We have to be flawless with our communication, whether it is written or speaking, right? But when you are upskilled, when you are able to understand, okay, this is a particular script that can influence, let's say, a DevOps engineer when he is deploying his particular application. And if you're writing about the script in your user manual, let's say, and if you're able to fine tune and say this, we can avoid these two, then it makes a humongous change even for engineering. So how you collaborate, and you can question product management. And another example, question product management about, okay, there is a feature, requirement is given, you start creating content, you plan and all of that. But ask the question, why? How is this feature important for my customers? How is this different from what, let's say, another organization or a competitive organization is using, right? So that questioning is important, for which that upskilling is very, very important. So these three important points actually contribute to how you can be that critical resource in your organization. And apart from that, two other important points that I wanted to also capture when it comes to equipping oneself is, having the discipline in terms of project management and program management in general, right? How it is important. So this, when we spoke about critical resources in the org, right? And we said upskill, it is important for both ICs as well as managers. So as managers, I think, or as leaders, I think it is important to identify where some of the reportees or ICs in your team have that capability of upskilling and contributing. So that is where manager plays an important role. So bring them, throw them into the ocean and see who can do what, right? And so that is something that is important. So which way, in return, I think the manager also becomes a critical resource for the organization, right? So highly effective project and program management is very important, not just for ICs but for managers. I mean, I wanted to say it the other way around, not just for managers but for ICs as well, right? So align with whatever is happening, even when we are deciding on, let's say, our yearly goals, right? What we want to do, we have to start thinking about whether my goal is actually aligning with what my organization has come up with in their strategic goals. It's very important. Then metrics, I cannot emphasize more on this. It is very important to understand, measure whatever we are taking, whether we are planning effectively, whether we are executing our plans effectively, whether the execution was a success or not. If it was a failure, then why? If and how can we improve? So for all of this, I think we have to start associating metrics, not in terms of just story points or the man hours or person hours, right? But in terms of insights into what can be better, or trends into what can be. So basically applying some kind of analytics into what can be better. That is important to actually devise your overall plan. And then resource utilization. I think this was a big lesson for me personally when I jumped from a bigger MNC to a startup where everything were questioned. I know we embraced a lot of open source technology stack, a lot of things, but everything would be questioned in terms of why do we need this? It's very easy to say, okay, I want a tools team who can publish my content. I want an editor who can review my content, ensure they deliver copy edits and developmental edits, and then I want someone else who can do the handoffs, right? But all of this is what is expected out of a writer in a startup kind of a setup. Or now I think more even the MNCs are slowly embracing all of that, right? So the optimal use of resources, when I say resources, it could be people and tools and infrastructure, right? So instead of trying, for example, we adopted Docs as code mainly because we didn't want to invest in uh, you know uh, uh, let's say a CMS. Instead, I will use my own GitHub, which is already invested by the organization. So I'm not bringing extra cost to it, right? So that kind of a thinking mentality is required for the manager as well as the IC. Why I keep repeating IC is a lot of these ideas do chop or crop up from the ICs, and the managers are good enough to should be good enough to embrace that and then move along, right? Risk mitigation. This is another important point. I know we would plan, we are all excited with a lot of things to see, okay, this is a way in which we want to move ahead. So apart from moving ahead, we have to start foreseeing what kind of possible risks that might be there. You know what? There are analytical tools and solutions that are available, which will even predict your risks these days. You can embrace that also, right? So think about risks and have a mitigation plan in place and see, okay, if this is a risk that I foresee, what is my fallback option? So that also is very critical for which contributes to the overall program or project management. And all of these also constitute your effective documentation roadmap, and that has to be time bound. It is very important that it is time bound. In the software industry, typically the common phrase I know most of you would have heard is, so when do you want this? It's always yesterday, right? So that's the fast-paced environment that we are operating in. So it's important for us to have our roadmap devised, which are aligned with the organization's strategic goals and is time-bound. So that is also important for an efficient and effective project management. And the last but not the least is innovate. If we have to sustain in whatever industry that we are in whatever role that we are executing, right, we have to innovate. That is the only way to sustain. This is also applicable for the organization as a whole. If the organization, fails to innovate, then they're left behind, right? So think about how Kodak went into ashes, because I know a lot of people don't even know, with the younger generation don't even know what Kodak was, and instead of embracing the digital photography. Right. So it is important to embrace technology. It is important to innovate using that technology trend. So, and that doesn't mean that, every day we start thinking about what we have to do, but there has to be a clear objective of why we want to innovate. Just because we say innovate doesn't mean we have to do something around it, right? And we have to ensure that we are not really deviating from company's goal when it comes to innovation, right? And for which, again, there has to be an impact for that innovation, and that impact is how it is going to be consumed by your customers. Ultimately, customer is the king, that they say, right? So how it is going to impact our customers, is it even worth innovating or doing investing in this ideation? And then, of course, we have to have a measure of how we succeed in whatever we innovated with, right? So, and one thing with respect to innovation is how it is important for technical writers to also take part in any kind of hackathons or things that happen within the organizations, right? These are some things that the engineering and primarily developer folks do it, wherein they come up with ideations where they execute, there is a time, and this is something that I feel that technical communicators also need to be a part of, wherein you can bring in a lot of value add. You can probably play a role of product manager, or even, let's say, a design engineer, where you could provide some easy design of how you can present that whole idea, right? So innovation is very, very important. So keeping ourselves equipped. There are a lot of things outside of this, but I just picked three, top three probably, is how you have to be a critical resource for the organization, how it is important for us to have an efficient project and program management, and how it is important for us to embrace and execute innovation. So before we move on, are there any questions? I know I tend to talk a lot, but and if I'm going too fast or slow, please let me know.
Speed is perfect.
Okay. Thanks, Punit.
And
All
great
right.
coverage, Ramya.
Thank you, Menka. All right, let's move to the next segment. In that case, which is the final segment, I'd say. This is how how I can influence my promotion. So first and foremost, it's a very what do I say? I shouldn't be saying tricky, but it is tricky when it comes to promotion and moving up the career ladder, right? First and foremost, please ensure that you are, as a person, interested in getting promoted and what that promotion means to you. It could be monetary, it could be learning, it could be moving up the career, it could be, and all of these are valid reasons for why we need a promotion, right? And it's a validation for ourselves saying that, okay, I'm doing well in whatever field that I've chosen to, right? So for instead of trying to wait for your managers or leaders or management in general to actually acknowledge and promote you, which will happen as well. I'm not saying that it will not happen, which will happen, but that will happen only if there is a reciprocation from the individual, right? So it is important. And for us to know that and believe that, yes, I want to be promoted and why, right? So you have to sell yourself. So there's a sales pitch also that we speak about, right? So if we give you 5 minutes, how do you sell yourself to your manager or anybody that is interviewing you? Why you, right? So that is a question that we have to continuously ask ourselves and keep writing and put it somewhere so that you keep adding more to those pointers. So first and foremost, I think we should have a very clear understanding of what we want in when we go for a promotion. What is it that we want? Yes, I want to move in the IC role. I want to be a technical writer. I want to move to the next level. Then I want to be an architect, or I can be a content strategist. So these are all different IC levels. And then, of course, there is management, people management, and whatnot, program management also. I just want to shift a little bit of a focus here. It is not necessary that once a writer, you'll always need to be a writer, right? So it is important to also see beyond technical writing. See if something that interests you. In my experience, I've had my team folks who have moved into support organization. And I've always encouraged that lateral shift. It is important too, right? So there are people who moved from writing to QA. That is something that's fascinated along the line. So when we start embracing all of these cross functional teams collaboration, so we get to see what different roles are there. Then there can be a product manager. Actually, a good friend of mine moved from technical writing to product management, who also worked in Microsoft and now in Rubrics and all of that, right? So it's you can move into that because you are, remember we spoke about customer advocacy. So once you start learning more about customers, learning more about the domain that you're operating in, the technology that you're embracing, then you start to understand that, oh, okay, this is the market trend. This is what I think will help. So then that's another influential factor which will tell that, okay, maybe product management is something that I like. So when you think about promotion, start thinking about the lateral shifts as well. It doesn't need to be only in technical writing. So this is something that personally I have encouraged my team also, and it's important to embrace the other things too, especially again when it in the current trend when Gen AI is coming for all of us, right? So start thinking in that direction too. And when it comes to now, these are some of the little things that are there, which is when it comes to promotions. Well, management will take a call only based on how you're able to execute certain responsibilities of that next level already. Let's say you're a technical writer, you want to move into senior technical writing, then you should be able to clarify and understand what your current job descriptions are and what the next level job descriptions are, or whatever level that you're wanting to go into. So if that requires a lot of documentation planning, if that requires a lot more mentoring other writers, if that requires, presenting in such forums, right? So if then that is what management will see. So you will not be promoted just because you completed 5 years or 6 years. That doesn't matter at all. But if you're able to step up, and if you're able to already execute, if not all, but most of the responsibilities of that next level, that definitely is will be considered for a promotion, right? So that is very important. So understanding your current roles, understanding the next level roles is also very crucial. And then showcasing your delivery, this is very, very important, right? Whenever you get a chance, you will have to be able to showcase yourself. You don't have to shy away, and if you have done something good, and if it has had an impact not just within your team but probably outside of your team, it is important to showcase that, right? Like I said, I was able to work with my support engineer, and now I have reduced 10% of support tickets, especially for this particular module, because I have created this troubleshooting information. Huge plus. So things like that, those are things that you should start looking at, embracing, so that this is actually brought into the visibility of your manager, and then hence the upper management as well. Again, when you quote your impact, put in those numbers, put in those metrics, tell them why it is successful, tell them why you are different, how you were able to do things, right? Content migration, like I spoke about, I used a script to actually do it, whereas there could be someone else who did the same thing, but they did a copy paste and took a longer period, right? So that's how you make a difference is important, and how you showcase that difference is also very, very important. And it is important to actually have continuous talks with your manager. So one of the things that I've always disliked or unlearned when I became a manager is to talk about status reports or status updates. I never do that in my one-on-ones. Right? There are already tools, there are already processes in place where every person's statuses are already documented. It could be your project management tool like Jira or any other things, or it could be as simple as an Excel spreadsheet or a timesheet that you're already keying in your work. So that is something that the manager is responsible to review and understand, and not wait for one-on-one to get those. Of course, you can use the one-on-ones to actually talk about if there are any risks that they see, or if the writer needs any kind of a support, or if there are some dependencies for which the manager needs to chime in. Right. So those are things that you can talk. But apart from that, predominantly, I think it is very important, especially for managers, to talk about what are some of the things that we see in the writer, provide that constructive feedback, and see if that actions are actually being executed. And on the writer front, I think what is important is to have that kind of a talk, and show your manager that you are interested, have a plan. Everything will not happen in a fortnight. Take a phased approach. Say that phase 1, I want to learn this. Phase 2, I want to apply this knowledge here. Phase 3, I want to actually implement a POC, like proof of concept, right? And then phase 4 is when I will actually see if that idea can be sold and implemented across in some other, across the organization. So that when you have that phased approach, and that phase, keep your manager up to date in terms of every phase, so that the manager is also interested in taking into account, saying that, okay, this person is doing something really nice and it is having an impact. So that devising a plan along with the manager and the IC is very, very important. It's crucial for both of them, right? And with all of this, I think you have to be very patient and persistent. That is very crucial, because like I said, it does not happen in a fortnight. There are people who can be promoted in 3 years. There are people who can be promoted after a decade. It all depends on what you want to do as a person, and how you convey that to your manager or your leader, and ensure that you're able to devise a plan and execute that, right? So those are some of the things that I wanted to touch upon on the promotion bit of it. I think those are some of the things that I wanted to share. Any questions, comments, suggestions? I'm open. I think somebody has their hand up. Please go ahead, unmute yourself. And okay, all right.
Okay,
Okay, there
so
is a
oh,
there is a
my
question
screen.
on the chat, I think.
Right.
You want to read it, Puneet, or?
Yep, I'm reading.
Sure.
My screen was stuck for a while. So first of all, thank you, Ramya. Great session, great insight. Thank you so much. And yep, Bala Kosuri has this question. He is in the job market since 2022. 2022. For me, Docs has code, data with single sourcing in Markdown, DevDocs, UI text, how to videos, Agile have been the norm. Since they are a norm, I never felt the weightage of learning multiple things in a short window. My question to both of us, how can I position myself better in the market, saying, hey, I don't have the number of years to back this up, but I can get the job done. Very interesting. In such diverse environments with minimal onboarding effort from the organization. You
Will the
want to take it?
market I think there's an additional question to it.
Oh
Will the
yeah.
market take this as an advantage, saying since this is the norm, it's already expected from you? How do I tackle this for monetary reasons? It's a wonderful question. I can take that. I think it is from Bala, right?
Bala.
Okay, great question, Bala. So I think one of the things that I would do as a job seeker is to understand the JD in depth, right? So the JD, and then I would actually update my CV also accordingly, so that the keywords are actually caught upon, and then you're actually selected for it. Let's say you get a talk. One thing is, based on the current requirement, the HR or the recruiter is advised by the hiring manager, saying that look for these keywords, right? Which is Docker code, let's say, or minimalism or structured authoring or whatever that you mentioned. But and then typically what they would do is, it also depends on the experience level. For experienced people, the expectation would be that somebody with that background comes into existence or comes into play, that we can interview and take it forward from there. But if that is something that's not done, it depends on what you want to do as an individual, based on the number of JDs that you might see. Let's say data has most number of requirements, then I think it is important for you to understand that, okay, maybe let me learn some basics of data to an extent and see how it is important. You can do your own projects for that matter, not wait for your own organization to provide content, right? Or opportunity for you to work on data. Instead, you can do it yourself. You can have your own. There are so many open source tools now, so you can start creating content and say, and do it for yourself to see that, okay, this is my experience, and that experience, trust me, will give you a lot of boost to actually answer those questions or tackle your interviews, right? So the experience need not be from, majorly from the background that you come from, or the organization that you come from. So typically what hiring managers look for is your ability to understand, your attitude towards learning, and how you quickly you can adapt. So if you're able to showcase that, let's say with your own personal project, that will still be a win in terms of how you can crack that interview. So it is fine. I mean, definitely it is more about how docs is code. So to me, tools is not, as a hiring manager, tools is not a big deal at all. I don't look for tools experience at all. Anybody can learn, but how you're able to understand what that tool does for a technical communicator, that is important. If you have that understanding, I think it is easier to embrace any kind of such environments that you have listed. I mean, that's my 2 cents. Maybe Puneet, you can add your thoughts as well.
I think you have covered this all. I'm just confused about this thing, but I can get the job done in such diverse environments with minimum. Is he talking about lesser experience, but Bala, are you talking about having lesser experience to show in terms of numbers, but you feel your capabilities are like, equal to people with higher experienced people, and you are expecting something on that?
Correct, Punit. To give an example, say there's a pipeline of applicants.
Mm-hmm.
I am 5 years of experience, but somewhere in the pipeline there is also somebody with 8 years of experience. In this case, I cannot get past the recruiter.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
For me to go to the manager is not the case. I cannot even get passed through the recruiter because majority of the recruiters, they go with the JDs and the required
Yeah,
amount of years. So is
yeah.
there a way I can work around this only for the recruiter? Because if I can get to Ramya, I can convince her that she would understand. But uh, That's not the problem. It's the recruiter.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, Bala, if you're able to add confidently some of the things that are already listed in the JD, then that doesn't matter, right? So let's say you've not extensively worked on Docs as code, but you have done a personal project using Docs as code. Put that in there. So it's that also is a bot now, right? So the recruiter will just run it through the bot. He or she will just skim through all the CVs that match these keywords, and those will be shortlisted, right? So that can happen too.
Correct.
Like I said, experience. See, when you look at the JDs also, predominantly it will be like 5+ years or 6+ years. So anybody with 5 years experience or even 15 years experience will still be sought out for recruitment.
So I think the only point I would like to emphasize, not to add, because Ramya has already said that, portfolio preparation.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, there are average people who go by years and learn slowly and all. And there are some people who work in an organization and do the work, whatever the organization demands. But apart from that, they keep on learning, upgrading their skills. So I think, especially for such scenario, if you have a portfolio, a private portfolio, a personal portfolio, which you can share with a recruiter, and in case you want to get into impress the managers directly, yeah, of course, there are LinkedIn, there are professional networking things where you can get in touch and let people know about your ability. Okay, so portfolios help a lot. So that way you can bypass this challenge.
Got it.
And in terms of numbers, just based on my experience with interactions with people, I will say number of years of experience versus salary or what the kind of job we are getting. If we just go in a generic way, yeah, it follows the generic route. But there are people, like, if we just talk about simple numbers, 4 years, 5 years of experience, an ideal salary we expect is like something around 10 lakhs or something. But there are people with 4 years or 5 years of experience who are getting 20 lakhs also.
Yep. Yep.
So, yep, do something different and probably you will be there.
Got it, Punit.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ramya. Thank you, Punit.
Sure,
Yeah.
Bala. I think Ketki had a question. I think I answered there. So in the chat. So yes, all these distance courses from IIMs, they do help. It depends on what specific area you're targeting, Ketki, which is, let's say there are a variety of courses. It could be Scrum Master, or if you want to move into project management, and then, or if there are around business intelligence. So there are a lot of courses that are provided. So based on what is your liking and where you want to incline yourself, I think they do help. IIM courses, they do help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Ramya.
Sure, Ketki.
So we have one from Manas. So Manas, your question is technical writing course certificate mandatory? No. We run
No.
courses, but I am telling you, it's not important.
Yeah.
I think I am here, Ramya is here, Menka is there. None of us have done the courses.
Yeah.
Okay, and we are here. So courses are not important, but what, at least for entry level, what you need is like both of us have talked about the skill set. When the interviews happen, you need to showcase that skill set. You can do it through self-learning. You can get in touch with mentors, but that skill set must be shown when you are getting into the interview. Now, there are multiple ways. I think even in salary survey, there is a section for that. There are people who have done it by self-learning. There are people who have done it with mentors, and there are people who have done it with courses. So it's all your way. The end goal is getting the skills, whichever way works for you. And yeah, no company, or probably these days at times I hear, so probably even that, if I see 2% of the companies say a trained technical writer is required, 98% of the companies say, okay, come over, we will test you. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, Manas, hope that answers. Okay, so I think in the interest of time, already we are too much ahead of time. So thank you so much, Ramya. And
All right,
so
thanks,
this was
everybody.
very interesting. And now we will move on to Menka. So, and yeah, as I said before, so we are running ahead of time, we are late. So We will decide in the end what to do, but for now, first, let's have the session. Weighing the doc manager and individual contributors' role. Basically, those who are in dilemma would find this very interesting. And trust me, when you will get to a senior level, you will always get into this dilemma. And we have Menka here for this. She is the technical documentation manager, IC, working in Reltio. She is based in Bangalore. She has played various roles from team member, team lead, individual consultant, team manager, and data trainer. And she has her experience, which is spanning across MDM, semiconductors, terminal operating systems, banking. Oh my God, a lot of things, right? So, and of course, she's passionate about product documentation and tools. She loves to simplify complex information and strives to provide great customer experiences through content. So, we are expecting that is in this session, she is going to simplify this challenge for all of us, whether to be an IC or to be a leader. So yes, Menka, I am
Yeah.
stopping sharing. You can go ahead and share.
Okay.
Welcome, and you can get started.
Yeah. Thanks, Punit. I'm not sure if I can really do away with all the doubts that people have, but let's try. At least I'll try.
Sure.
Just 1 second, trying to share my screen. Okay. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay.
Edit mode.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah.
Better now.
Sure.
I'll share.
Yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to the session where we will dig into what it takes to support the documentation team either as an individual contributor or as a manager of the team. And I'm very happy that Ramya covered a lot of strong points that people can actually showcase their leadership skills through managing their own deliverables, right? So I think that has laid a very good foundation for people who have experience and are now thinking of how do they move forward, right? So I hope the continuation of this session helps you, at least by the end of my presentation, there is some clarity if you are not sure which way you tend to fall on, right? And I'm trying to compare both the role of an IC and a manager based on the experience and the impact that this has. Okay, 1 second. I'm not able to move to the next slide for some reason. 1 second.
Press enter and all is not working.
Yeah, when I press enter, the side panel comes up, and when I press the arrow keys, nothing happens.
Okay.
Or do you mind sharing it for me? Then I'll stop sharing, Puneet, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Do you have my presentation open or?
I will just need to download. 1 second.
Okay. I don't know. When we checked, it seemed to work fine. Or I can try sharing it once again and let's see if that works.
Yeah, you can try that. In the meanwhile, I'm just trying to open it.
Okay.
So you are sharing directly from Google Slides, right? Okay. Yeah, it's working for me. So shall I share? You're on mute, so.
Yeah, I think it'll be better if you go ahead and share, Puneet.
Okay.
That way, people won't be stuck.
Visible?
Yes, this works. Thank you. The next slide, please. Okay, so what I was saying is we'll dive deeper to ensure that how do you become successful in either of these roles, and we'll see based on our individual strengths which way we are falling on, right? So this image, this is just Dali's understanding of my prompting, trying to tell that, give me an image of some individual contributors versus that of managers. And I was very surprised, though maybe because it is AI, we should, like Ramya said, we should test and see, and then not just take it at face value. Also, the spelling of documentation was incorrect when I got the first version of this image. And that surprised me, because documentation is not a new or Gen AI word or, 2025 word. But then this shows that, at least hopefully, we tech writers are not going anywhere away. We will need our attention to detail to help us succeed in whichever role we get to, right? Next slide, please, Puneet. Yeah, and we can skip this because you've already covered this. I don't need to say more about myself. And coming to what we are going to cover here, I'll try, in the interest of time, to run through a little faster than I had planned to, so that we don't, extend the session beyond what we need to. So next slide, please. Yeah, so as you can see, I wanted to talk about the roles and responsibilities of both individual contributors and the managers. So one of the major differences that we see when it comes to individual contributors and documentation managers in the roles, no, I'm not talking about the skills at the moment. We are focusing only on the roles. So obviously, as individual contributors, because you belong to the documentation, and this discussion is specific to documentation team, individual contributors and managers, right? So obviously, you need to be really good at content development. You should, and like Ramya was mentioning earlier, product documentation or product understanding has to be a strong point. Whichever, now that's not specific only to the IC role, even for a manager, but I would still say, based on my experience, even if the manager is somebody who is new to the product, they would have uh, 10 other deliverables that they need to be focused on, and they could assign the product documentation cross-checking kind of responsibility to an individual contributor who is strong at it, right? So that way, that's why I've listed it under individual contributors. And you will be responsible for specific contributions. We'll see what that is, and mentorship of your juniors. But again, that will be more on the voluntary side. Whereas when you are a documentation manager, obviously you are expected to lead the teams. You need to engage in strategic planning, and you should be able to optimize the processes. You definitely are responsible for taking your team forward. So whether it is with the tech stack, or it is to do with how documentation is done, or even what are the next steps for your team, or how you can collaborate better, all of that comes as responsibilities of the managers. Okay. Yeah, we'll have another slide that talks about skills comparison, Puneet. So we'll skip this. Let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, so here I've just listed out the key responsibilities. And again, I'm not going to elaborate here. I'll just touch up upon these points. When we share the slides later, you can go through. Basically, from an individual contributor, content development is their main forte that they should be very strong in. Technical expertise here refers to how well you understand the product that you are documenting. Obviously, you need to work with it. And like Puneet had given that example of if you had to write about buying something from Amazon, right? So obviously, you cannot be writing about it unless you have done that. Right. So that is something which I feel, as an individual contributor, you always should be on your toes to be able to go ahead and, take the steps that are needed. Quality assurance, ensuring that your product, like how Ramya was telling us, right, that you should be able to pinpoint what can be improved even in the product. And that can happen only if you are committed to understanding how the product works and how it can be made better. And specialized contributions here, what I meant to touch upon was simple things like, if your company, or in some startups, you may not be using the style guides like how some other MNCs use. As a team, you could, as an individual contributor in your team, you could start focus on the style guide kind of thing. So that is one kind of specialized contribution besides bringing in data if needed and things like that. And mentorship, like I mentioned earlier, that's optional. But it puts you in a good position if you are able to mentor and handhold writers who need your support. Next slide, please. Yeah, so now key responsibilities of that of a documentation manager. Definitely there is lots more. I have again broken it into three main things where it comes to team leadership. Obviously, you are responsible for guiding and motivating your team to achieve the goals that the company has set out for you and the ones that you set out with your team, right? So both of those is something that comes under the manager's purview. And strategic planning, where you will need to, Ramya already detailed quite a lot about how do you plan strategically and all of that. So I'm not going to go deep into that, but basically, how do you come up with what are the gaps that you have today and how do you fill those gaps with your understanding of the processes, if you need to do some changes in the tech stack, or if there are other ways through which you can enhance the documentation efforts, right? How you can make life easier for your documentation team itself. That itself is a big plus, because once the documentation team is not pressed for time, obviously they are going to be producing better documentation. They are going to be making more quality deliverables. You can focus more by, um, by using AI to some extent to do the automated tasks. Like for example, as an example, people use Grammarly now very frequently, and that's been the norm for some time. So now people have also started using, some companies, even we did, we got into Acrolinks, and we were able to rate our topics, right? So things like that, I think from a managerial perspective, you should be able to do things that enable and empower your team to do better. And of course, stakeholder management, that comes without any doubt, that you will be required to ensure that you are the bridge between the senior management and your team, and you are able to handle your team's concerns plus the customer feedback that comes in, and smoothen things out between both the sides and take the team forward towards achieving the company goals. Next slide, please. Yeah, so comparing the skills, obviously writing expertise is an individual contributor's forte, and the technical proficiency, where you are comfortable with the tool and the platform that you are using, and you are able to develop the content that you need to, ensuring that it is of high quality. The managerial role skill wise, definitely you have to be I would say equipped enough based on your experience to be able to delegate and review. And on the strategic thinking that we discussed earlier, you should be able to guide the team towards broader objectives. Next slide, please. Yeah, and to do away with everything technical that we have been talking, I just put in this quote here, because irrespective of whatever role you are playing, right? You might be a fresher, you might be a person with 4 or 5 years experience, whatever it is, or you might be a manager who's trying to move into the next role, right? Please remember, it is not your authority that's going to get you to do what you need to do. One, you need to have a hold over where you need to know, where you need to go, right? Like Ramya said, you need to know where you are heading. So that's very important. Secondly, everything doesn't have to always relate to authority. You cannot be sitting back in the team thinking that, okay, tomorrow when I become the lead, then I will take these steps to improve these things. I think we have to move away from that thinking. And I guess most of the people who have been promoted in the last 5, 7, 10 years, we all understand that it is not the authority, it is the influence. The higher, the greater impact you make with the changes that you bring in. Even simple things, as ensuring that the team is not is able to plan their work well in advance by collaborating better with the engineering team or the product management team. Things like that, that is an influence, right? So we need to start thinking on those lines. And that's the reason I put this slide here. Next slide, please. Okay, this was a SWOT analysis that I wanted to share. We know that individual contributors, they are strong in content development, and they also understand the product very well. At least that's the expectation, and that's where we should always be heading as individuals, so that we are able to produce high quality documentation. One of the weaknesses when you are an individual contributor and you are not a manager, right? So obviously your decision making influence might be limited. For that, I mean, the other way to for that is, if your manager is conscious enough of the strengths you bring in, right? Then that decision making could be more of a collaborative decision making thing, where the weakness would not stay a weakness for long. And opportunities for individual contributors, of course, are like, uh, you can build your expertise in something specific, like say even in some companies, if you have like you could be using some specific tools, like when you move to a CCMS, or when you bring in a tool like Acrolinks or Grammarly, or you bring in another tool for federated search. These individual contributors can actually build their expertise around that tool and take the whole team forward by implementing those tools. So that could be an opportunity. But again, it is given that a lot of it depends upon how far your company is willing to spend in those things. Otherwise, you have to be willing to, like Ramya mentioned, be willing to test out what is available, so that it is not on your company to make that investment to make things better. So you have that opportunity as an individual contributor to figure out what is the next step that I could take, which could take my team to the next level, right? And threats, of course, documentation managers, because we do see that in a lot of the job descriptions for documentation managers, it comes with a caveat that, you should be capable of writing, you should be able to deliver. In spite of being a manager, you should be able to do hands-on documentation. Sometimes, and I have known that with my experience as well in the past, that it does become difficult to do that kind of balancing act, because when you are responsible for helping other people be more be delivering in a much more conscious manner, you may not have all the time in the world to sit and do the documentation yourself. And there are also other sides to this coin, where sometimes when somebody has done something as a manager, you understand that this could have been made much more simpler. This is very complex, right? There are scenarios we come across as managers when we look at someone's effort. So that's I think that's where the entire team needs to come together and understand and participate in a way that it's a win-win for all the members in the team, whether it's an individual contributor or a manager. Next slide, please. Okay, I think we can skip this. We'll move on to the next slide. Yeah, so how do you transition from being an individual contributor to a manager? And in the first place, of course, you may have the doubt whether do I really need to go there? Do I want to be a manager? But in most of the companies, what happens is like even Ramya mentioned, right? You end up behaving or uh, working in that role much before your promotion comes along. So you need to be able to uh, deliver in the role that you are yet to get to, right? So that is where your this effort goes in. So starting with building strong relationships, how do you transition? So you need to have strong relationships with the team, with the cross-functional team. You need to develop your key skills. Of course, communication is a major skill there, and as if you look into the manager's kitty, you will definitely have situations where you will be forced to resolve conflicts also. And that I think, instead of resolving, being able to ensure that you are not reaching that state where it becomes difficult to resolve those conflicts, that is another skill that we need to learn and build our strengths on. Third is your shift your focus, and that is when you stop worrying about, okay, this is my deliverable, this is all that I can do. You start looking at much bigger picture and you start driving bigger goals, right? And you seek mentorship and you embrace the leadership opportunities. I'm not going deep into this because I know we are short on time. Next slide, please. Sorry for this hurried session, everyone. But if you have any questions after we are done, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or through email or phone, and I'll be happy to help. How do these, our skills, what kind of skills we have, how do they impact the team dynamics? As you can see, obviously, collaboration and communication helps everyone to, row the boat in the same direction. And leadership influence is definitely needed for a team that wants to make an impact. No team, no documentation team can be successful unless you have a manager that has your back, right? And both of these things are required. You need to develop your skills. You need to look for mentorship opportunities if you can. And that's something which I think as writers, we really do not go into that. But I feel, given the years of experience that I have now, I feel that's one area where we should allow ourselves to go in and explore who are those people who can help us learn to get better at what we can get better at. Next slide, please. Okay, these were just some case studies. So if you see, as an individual contributor, there have been, and this is not related only to my company. I have picked it up across the projects that I have seen my friends execute over the years, or I have heard about from some of the other company friends, where in one of the companies, the documentation manager actually organized the sessions and knowledge sharing sessions about the product, and these were so effective that actually the team's productivity increased because the obstacle of not understanding the product completely was cut down majorly. So that is something, I think these are things, again, which as individuals and as managers, we can help the team move forward. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I wanted to, if I had dived much deeper, then this summary would have been useless. So I'm glad in a way that at least this summary slide will help people understand how individual contributors and managers, both of them play essential roles, and how they can actually help create an environment for the team where it becomes a win-win situation for every person in the documentation team to help achieve the organization goals. And I think we can move on to the next one. Okay, so this was a little on the fun side as well. So maybe this is just for everybody to read. I'm not going to read this out, but I think most of us have felt this at some point or the other during our career journey, right? Sometimes we feel, why is documentation an afterthought? And how can we change this? So when you start thinking for the team, on behalf of the team, and you are not thinking only for your deliverables, I think that is the time when you are mentally gearing up towards making the leap. That has been my understanding based on my experience. Till you are going to be occupied with, okay, how do I better my documentation? How do I better this piece that I have written? How can I create video for this thing? You are actually growing yourself, right? So once you have had that journey and you begin to think more from the team's perspective, that is when I think an individual is ready to move into the next level. That's it. I think we will not go ahead, Puneet, with the self-analysis part of it. We'll skip that. So I had prepared some questions where I wanted people to jot down answers, and we could it's for themselves. It's not for us to judge anybody. It is for people to figure out which side of the fence they fall on. But I think once we share these presentations, anybody can go ahead and take those. Thank you.
Wonderful analysis overall, details and all. Too much.
Thank you.
Seriously. Yeah, and
Sorry
I
for the hurried
particularly
session, though.
liked the thoughts slide, Menka. I think that was really
yeah,
nice.
true.
Okay, I had fun creating that one for sure.
That's actually thought provoking. Basically, when you see this, the thoughts one. Great. So thank you so much, Menka, for the session. So people, any questions, any further suggestions you need, or anything you want to share your experience also? Okay, so yep. Yeah, I wish your session could have extended a bit longer. Okay, so probably next time, someday, we will have a separate session, Menka.
Sure.
So you'll be ready with that?
Yes. Now the slides are ready.
Okay, wonderful. So, okay, so it looks like we don't have questions right now, so we will move ahead. So thank you again to both of you for joining here. But yeah, right now this is not the time to leave. There is certain, I was mentioning about this section where people have, so I know we are already ahead of time. So let's see, we will just go through these questions. Uh, and in case if there is some question which is like still not answered, although we will not be able to answer all of these, but still we will see. Uh, if there is something unique, probably we can take it up, or else, I mean, of course, participants now here, it's not only about the presenters, you are also experienced, you can also take up. So I think freshers or general, do we see anything unique here? I think most of the things probably have been answered already. How the tech writing rules would evolve in a decade, I think already we have talked about it. But still, if somebody who has asked it and thinks it's not answered, please let me know. Let us know. What tools or software are essential? We talked about it. Salary part, how to negotiate? Okay, I think this, why is the salary bracket so less compared to a number of years of experience you carry? I think probably we touched this also. How to negotiate for salary with the current working company? Negotiate for salary with the current working company? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, anybody wants to take that? The art of negotiation. Oh, one
I
simple way, guys. It's
I
just
think just equipping and then ensuring that you are giving what is asked for, then you are the master, right? Because there are people, who actually go shopping with their negotiations, wherein they have an offer, they with the offer, they're so gone are those days where they negotiate based on the CTC, but now they negotiate based on offers. So I think when you have it, it's easier to actually negotiate. You are the demanding person.
yeah, I think I was going to answer the same enough. I
Okay.
thought it will be a funny answer, but yeah, you made it very logical. So, yeah,
I think
Prasan, you want to say something?
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon. Thanks for a good session. Actually, I have a doubt with that, Ms. Ramya.
yes,
Actually, you have presented that even the developers are uh, starting to write the
yes,
technical documentation part. So,
yes.
does that impact a technical writer in the future if he's getting into the software documentation field? That is my doubt.
Eventually, Prasoon, I think yes. The answer to that is an unfortunate yes. But I don't foresee that happening in the near future. Now, how do we define that near future is something that we need to start thinking about how AI is going to extrapolate, right? So it's all
Mm.
about that data that's actually available, and because we have all of the style guides and everything out there, right? So it's all about how that data is being trained and how that logical model is being built. All that the developer has to do is to make use of that and create content based on, see, because
Okay.
he developer is not someone who is going to actually create algorithms, then create a flowchart, then create the code. It's not that anymore, right? So it's
Mhm.
he now it is more of code less. So then he's just going to be focusing on and for a startup environment, I think it is less investment for them in actually setting up documentation, right? If the developer themselves are taking care of implementing the code, creating the document, and publishing it, it's lesser investment, right? They can focus on more technology stack instead. But yes, the nitty-gritties of how the only big success that we have for ourselves in terms of technical communicators is we understand the customer language better than probably a developer. So
Okay.
that's where we stand out, right? So say for example, a developer had this happened to me actually personally. Developer actually created hundreds of lines of code when we moved from IPv4 to IPv6 addressing. And all I had to do was add a note in the release note saying that starting this release, we are also supporting IPv6 addressing. And he was actually very furious. He's like, I wrote hundreds of lines of code and why have you added just a note? I said, that's what the customer cares about, right? So that is where we make a difference, I think. When we bring in that customer advocacy, we make that difference. I think that's why that stronger customer advocation is very important.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Hope I
Thank you. Actually,
answered.
yes. Actually,
Okay.
currently I'm into technical documentation for aircraft domain. So
Mhm.
I was always curious about the software domain. So as you put this point, I suddenly I got this doubt. Thank you so much for the answer.
Sure. Thanks.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, here are some other questions. Again, I don't see anything new here. Probably most of the things we have talked about. What are the key skills required for aspiring managers? Already Menka talked about it. Role of doc manager. And which other domains, probably fields, can be explored after technical writing? There are a lot of fields. Okay, so I think Ramya and probably Menka also covered. Ramya covered that. So there are a lot of fields these days. There are technical writers who have done pretty well in technical writing. They have gone ahead to, I mean, the popular fields have been UX writing, product management, project management, and there are some other fields also, even in IT. Uh, I can see people moving to development and being the leader there. They have led documentation teams. Now they have moved to development, and there also they have not moved into IC role, but they are managing doc teams. So there are a lot of fields where you can, of course, explore. The basic formula remains the same. Whichever field attracts you, you should know the basics of it. Any pointers? I think, does that answer? Hopefully. And the last part, I think, on AI, always the question, how documenting an AI tool is different. Okay, we can take that later, maybe. Okay, some questions on these. So we have shared this career growth WhatsApp link. Some of these questions, we will paste it there so that people can answer. Okay, because certainly for all these, we might not have detailed time right now. Anyway, we are royally late. So yeah, so that's all for this session, I think. And so those were the questions I just wanted to display primarily, and we will share those questions, some of those questions. Still, before we wind up this session, anybody has any pressing question? One question we can take, or else we will just right now, we don't have time for a detailed salary survey, but what we have, I will display it right now. I will take 5 minutes, and then that complete details, you will get it on the website, and and so you can view their details. So any pressing question anybody has for the sessions that we already have completed? If no, then I think
Punit, Farah here.
yeah.
Just one question. I was trying to join the WhatsApp group links that you have shared in the mail. I'm getting the message that the WhatsApp group doesn't exist. Can you please share them here again or reshare on the mail somewhere? At least the
Uh,
participants here should be able to join if there is a way.
yeah. I can do that. First of all, that's one. I hope you were accessing it from mobile. Okay.
Yes, I
So,
was. Yes.
okay. So secondly, if it's not working, are you by chance any way part of any of our city group?
No, I'm not. I'm new.
Okay. Okay. So I will try to paste it here. And
All
otherwise,
right.
our support number is there. Just ping, that's number is there. Just ping that number and we will add you. Does that
All
work?
right. All right. Yeah,
Oh,
that works. Thank you so much.
sure. Okay. So quickly, very quickly now. Okay. So the salary survey part, what we have. So this some of this we already shared before, but here it's a complete summary. So we conducted this salary survey in the month of November 2024. We thought of publishing it by December, but we could not because there was a lot of data and somehow we were lacking resources. Now here we have some summary. So first of all, we have participation from around 937 persons, and those persons based on cities. Some did not mention the city, but otherwise it was like around 36 cities, primarily India, and some Indians staying abroad. Okay, so this is a completely Indian survey. And you can see as some of the summary. Gender, at least in technical writing, I don't think it matters, because primarily whenever we talk about gender, it's like male more, but in technical writing, I feel females are more. And but yeah, in our voting, there are males, and the number of males basically is a bit higher. That's it. So now, in general, work type and mode, if somebody is looking for this discussion about why to go to office, and also we can see work from office, work from home, and hybrid. So yeah, work from home has certainly reduced. As per those participants, we can see only 18.6%. It's primarily work from office and hybrid. So hybrid rules. In our participants, the age range varied from youngsters like 19 years, and then there were a few to 62 years. But yeah, primarily the age range is between 25 to around 50. So that's the group we had for this. Domains we have, well, this is just for knowledge that on what domains people were working. So we will share this. You can see, but yeah, there are a lot of domains. So those of you who know, who just want to know that, okay, names of domains also, it will be a good read. Salary range. The lowest salary, that even lowest when we say the current salary I'm talking about, the lowest salary we saw was around 2 lakhs per annum, INR of course, and probably some intern. But otherwise, the highest is also a bit like 99 LPA per annum we saw. And there it's like 70 plus category. There are many who are getting 70 LPA. Cities, if we see the salary range, so it includes all those details. And this part is actually already there on our website. But yeah, when we will share the complete document, it will have all. So this link is already there, where we have the result summary, salary range of technical writers from India, regions and cities you can see. And here it's a summary of overall range. So on the left, location versus range. These are the locations, primary locations. Here remote means people who did not mention their city, and actually they are working remotely. And others means some people did not mention their cities, and plus some they are from abroad. But yeah, there is privacy issue. Everybody was bothered about privacy issue, and the data was pretty less, so we did not name them. Otherwise, they could be identified very easily. So that's the others part. You can see this range 1, 2 lesser than 2, 2, 2 lesser than 5. This is LPA INR. So you can see this for every city and for every range. There is a summary here. Then if you are just want to see range of your city, you can just see here Bangalore, Chennai, all the cities that you have seen there. So you have by range, by thing, by salary range, and overall by number of years of experience. Everything is available here. Same for remote and same for others also. Okay, so this is uh, for that. So salary versus your experience plus city. If you want to check, that page has all the details already. And So experience, when we say the participants, yeah, there were freshers who just started, so 0 year, like just started like 1 month or so. And then the highest number of years that we got was 26 years. So that's the range there. And if you want to see that, okay, for a specific number of years of experience, what is the salary range? So we do have that data, and uh, that will be shared. But trust me, over a period of time, this number of years of experience doesn't matter. But anyway, as per data, that's what it is. Perks outside salary, apart from salary, you got ESOPs, you get bonuses and all. So in case you want to see, then that data was already shared before. So there is an article. This again, we will be sharing what all are the perks. So the data is completely available here. Who is getting what, and so probably that will help you also decide that within your company or next company you can, you know, talk like that, because many persons were whom I specifically spoke to, they were not even aware that they can ask for ESOPs, stocks. They were just happy getting the what do you call CTC. Okay. We had one interesting section about first salary, whenever, whichever technical writer started, what salaries they got. So, yep, we got people who have started working as tech writers before 2000, or that during that time, they used to get somewhere around 36K per annum, not per month. Okay. And and then at present, there are people who are getting different kind of salary. Average salary, we figure out that first salary today in today's market, if we say average, it's 4.5 LPA. Although mostly, unless somebody is an intern, the average salary, first salary, which we have noticed from this voting is going from say 3.5 to, in some cases it is going to 8 9 LPA also. So that completely varies based on the type of company and city also. Growth, those people who started with 30,000 per 30,000 per annum, or 36,000, or somewhere below 1 LPA per annum back then, probably 25 years ago, or probably even 15 years ago, they at present they are getting a very good salary. Somebody is getting 40 plus, somebody is getting 60 plus, somebody is getting 70 plus. So yep, growth is there. It's not like you start low then you never grow. There is a lot. Then we have some section, probably those people who want to read a bit of history and want to learn from it. There is a section called journey in tech writing. So how did you hear about this tech writing fields? So there are different sources, probably some of you can associate with it. Where did you learn technical writing? Some people have named some of the organizations, so those names are there. What was your first designation? Often people say, so I'm technical writer, somebody is information developer, somebody has some engineer. So different kind of designation, if that interests you, the name of those designations are there. And so everybody has some name their designation. Then we have reasons for why somebody joined this field. So we have reasons for joining tech writing field. So you can see interesting reasons from many people. Some join, so interest and passion, career transition, accidental entry, financial motivation, work-life balance. So many different reasons. Before, so somebody asked here also that training part. So this is what I was referring to. If you see this data here, right? So yeah, the details you will get. Training before joining, yes, there is a good proportion of people saying yes, but there are many, you will see self-learning, no, we don't need. And then there are people who get on the job training also. So yeah, it's all about which way you want to follow. Then before technical writing, as this answers the questions of many who come from different fields and wonder whether I can be a technical writer. This will answer their question that what was the background? There were people who were, working in different fields. Some were doctor, some were teacher. What was their profession before? Some were on career break. Some were just students directly. They started working as a technical writer and homemakers. So, and roles before joining as a technical writer, you will see very, very interesting names here. Names of roles, you will see very interesting names. So go through it. Now, to grow in this field, what skills people adapted? So we talk about different kind of learning. Okay, so you will see a summary of what skills they adapted to, what skills they learned. And this is not about the freshers only. This is about experienced technical writers also, what all they are doing to grow in their career. Okay, so thus, in general, there were some questions and we have very interesting answers. So I'm sure you will love it. Now, salary, job. We have one section about to measure the happiness index. How happy are you? Okay. So whatever salary are you getting? What is your satisfaction level? So some data is about that, where satisfaction level, lowest level is 1, highest is 5. How often your salary increases? What's more important for you, salary or role? Of course, salary is important, but for many, salary is not everything. You see, there are people who prefer role with freedom more. So you reach a stage in your career where you're already earning good salary. So you need other things also. So what's more important? So there is that kind of survey. Happy with salary? If there are people who said they are happy with salary, they have shared their own reasons, and they also shared that if they are happy with salary, what do you think? What made it? What made them reach here? Kind of skills and all. And then there are people who say they are unhappy with salary and why. What could be the reason? And with why they are not happy with their job. So you will see those details also. And then compensation versus value, that okay, whatever compensation are you getting, do you think it values you? So these kind of data we have, and so we will share these data, and of course after that we can go ahead and have discussions also later in the group. But yeah, right now in the interest of time, everything I cannot share in detail, but this data will be shared with all of you. So hope that helps. Any thoughts, any comments, or else we are all set. I hope, like